What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Commercial Roofing Radio. We got Jonathon Broce in the building with Ugly Roof. Now, this guy has been in the roofing space his entire life, right? This guy lives, bleeds, sweats roofing. All right, so he actually started with his dad, right? So you started your roofing career in your dad's sheet metal shop. What was that like?
Man, it was fun. I mean, as a kid, you don't realize that you're learning a trade and that it's going to be something useful, right? It's work, and Dad's making you be there, and you're sweating, and But it was good, man. It was good to learn some things, and it's generational. So like my great grandfather put the original gold leaf on the Capitol here in our state of West Virginia, and then
wow,
just down the line there, my great uncle was a tin knocker, so that's where I grew up and cut my teeth. Was on that side, was busting out tin, and that way, man. Yeah.
I love it, man. So all right, so you've always been an entrepreneur at heart, right?
Yes, sir.
I believe your first company started at 20 years old. Is that right?
Yeah, so I started up a framing company. So I was building houses. So got out into the, I worked at like 84 Lumbers and Lowe's for 6 months at a time. I tried a couple of like working at the steel mill at the plant. Didn't like it. Started building houses, man. One of my grandpas was a carpenter. So I didn't want to be a roofer, right? So that's what I said. I didn't want to be a roofer. So I started building houses and did well from about 2001 to about 2006, 7, and then we sold the business, and then I came over to the residential roofing side as a salesman, and in 07 and 08, and haven't left. Mm-hmm. So I've kind of been on this side ever since.
I love it, man. And you've actually worked with other contractors too, right? So you get into the roofing side of things, and we'll talk about your success there and kind of your journey a little bit. But you actually have done coaching and training with sales team. Is that right?
Yeah. So the specialty that we've kind of done is, some of my background with it is going into companies and helping them scale, like being on their payroll and actually working for the company. And in terms of that too, is helping other guys, go from smaller to larger. I mean, that's the thing, is like helping them go through all those growing pains. So the main thing that we've been able to do is develop all those systems and processes and put them into place. Theory's cool, but it's implementation, right? It's being able to implement it, put it together, help with all the automations and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so the sales training side has been pretty big for us. Currently with our one company with Ugly Roof, we have 24, 25 of the dealers now, nationwide, and we help them with their sales presentation. So we have our own custom sales presentation that we build for them, and we go in and do the sales training, help them, sell more roofs, man. And that's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, when you're looking at different companies that you've had an opportunity to work with, I mean, I'm sure you've seen a variety of different, types of operations.
Yeah.
What are some things you're seeing, some similarities that you're seeing with contracting companies that kind of take that next level and really scale effectively?
So the common theme for guys who actually scale and do it well is passion. Like most of you guys.
We got one of our sales reps over here just booked a meeting. Hold on, hey, come on here. You're interrupting the Jonathan.
I'm so sorry.
Happened?
Hi, Jonathan.
What did you book?
Hello, how are you?
I got a Michigan
roofing contractor.
Yeah.
All right, nice.
Yes,
Nice work. All right, sales 101 over here, baby. Let's go. Keep it rolling. Sales teams. Keep them rolling. Keep the pipeline full, right, man? That's probably one of the similarities, if I had to guess, is you got to keep the pipeline full.
You got to keep the pipeline full. Yeah, I mean the main thing though is passion. Like, the entrepreneurial spirit is still alive, right? And when the guys have the right passion and they're in there and they're wanting to work on their business instead of in their business, that's the biggest difference I think is seeing those guys, excel that way. So yeah, it's fun that way.
Yeah, so it's really watching entrepreneurs just kind of go to that next level of entrepreneurship, right? Where
Yeah,
you go from working in the business to working on the business. Now,
correct.
when you say working on the business, I think that's a terminology that people use a lot. What does that exactly mean to you?
For me, it means I don't have to be in the business firefighting all day long, right? That you have the system and process in place. You've trained your team and your staff and your management team the right way. They have everything that they need to be successful. That's the main thing. A lot of guys, the business would fail without them there. We have the capability now that where we're traveling across the nation all the time now, right? We're going to conferences and speaking and working with other guys. Like I was down in Orlando last week and one of the dealers there, and we spent 2 days with them, and we were at a conference for a couple of days, and the place didn't burn down, right? So that's the way you look at it, right? It's like now, as a step back, you can see the 30,000-foot view of it. And I was like, okay, so we're here, but we want to get here, but I can see these roadblocks in the way now. It's just the hardest thing I think to teach like a business owner at all to do is to just trust. Like it's hard to trust anybody but yourself, right? So when you're having these conversations with guys like I can't find anybody, I don't trust anyone, I don't trust anybody. Well, great, I don't trust anybody either, but I trust the system and the process. Right, so I trust that I know I can bring somebody in, train them, put them into this position, and I know how to check on it without having to be involved in it every day. So,
I wanted to ask you too about the roof cleaning business that you started, right? So that
yeah,
was in 2012, I believe. You
yep.
ended up selling that company. What made you think about starting the roof cleaning company?
So it was just for something different. I was selling roofs. I was up on the roofs doing different things. I mean, installing new roofs. So I was a roof salesman and roof sales trainer, all that kind of stuff. But there was another need too, right? Because not everybody needed a brand new roof. So at the time, that's all that we had was a way to clean the roof. You go in there and do the repair. So we've always had this passion of not every roof needs to be replaced, right? So on the commercial roof side, right? Because you can do maintenance, you can do coating around a curb, like you can stop the leak and everybody's happy. Have maintenance plans. That wasn't really the case on the residential side. Up until the last few years. So when we started the roof cleaning, it was more of, hey, listen, let's make this roof look better. That way that you can sell it easier. It just looks better, right? That you pull up here and you feel better about your house, and let's fix that other leak with it. So we had that on as an addition. I wound up selling that business to another guy who took the same concept and put it into his roofing company. It was kind of fun, man, because it was just me and my wife and my son-in-law
Oh, is it really?
knocking doors and knocking them down, man. Like we were literally we did about 1.5 million in cleaning.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Plus, I was selling roofs as well and doing other
Wow.
training just on that. So knocking doors, knocking it out. It was just a two-man crew. Didn't really
How was
have a whole lot of
profitability on
help.
that then?
Very, very good. So you do
That's a
a
very
million and a half a year, you're probably making 600,000 to 800,000 if you did it
Yeah.
right. So it's very profitable.
Good way to build the book of business too for
Good
other
way to build a book.
opportunities.
Yeah. So now that book of business, right? So that's what the value was that I had when I sold the company was I had a book of business. So
Exactly.
now they're doing with those roofs at year 5, year 10, year whatever down the road. So that was the beginning of the concept of of doing other things other than replacement on roofs. So.
So, would you mind touching on this? Like how to make a roofing company that's valuable, and then how to properly exit, because clearly you've been able to accomplish that. And I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah, so I lucked into exiting out of the framing company, right? It was more of I was building houses and In '06 it wasn't the crash. It was actually the peak. But in late '06, I went from selling 10 to 12 houses, 90 days out till I was building them, and it started to come to a head. It just felt different. I had a guy that wanted to buy the business. I didn't make a whole lot of money on it. Like, it sounded great. Like, I sold the business for like 2.6 million, but I had like 2.5 in debt, right? So we had all these lots and all these houses, and
Oh
so
yeah.
I made 150K to get out of the housing business. But with the roof cleaning company, so the concept was that you build that book of business, right? It's capturing the customer. So when you look at exiting plans, like if your goal is to build it, scale it, exit, you got to have reoccurring revenue is the main thing. But the one thing you got to look at too is your marketing cost. So you spend the money now. Why do I need to spend the money again if I've already captured that customer? So it's more about capturing that customer, and you look at the lifetime value of that customer. So, in roofing, when it's one and done, you make $1,500 a customer, and never, they're gone for 20 years.
That's
But
it.
when you
Yeah.
can do cleanings and maintenances and now rejuvenation, now you can do that 2 or 3 times over a 15-year period with the same customer. So
Recurring revenue.
recurring
Recurring
revenue.
revenue, right? How can you see customers multiple times rather than having to pay for that new customer acquisition cost once again, right? And then you got to think, right? What's the best customer? A repeat customer. They'll spend
Yep.
more. They already trust you. The process is gonna be more simple to refer you. So yeah, that's a great way to look at hey, how can I build a company that actually has a value to it? And really, the key is recurring revenue and figuring out ways where you can have multiple transactions with your customers rather than that one time and then 20 years down the road. So are you guys getting into the commercial space possibly, or what's the deal? I know you have the residential
Yeah.
solution. What's the deal on the commercial side?
So there's a couple of things here. So with MHI, with our roofing company, we just started up the division earlier this year. Coming from that background, we weren't ready, right? Because a lot of guys. That's the one thing that I would caution guys in is don't jump into it until you're ready. I've got the background in it. I mean, my dad helped me all along the way. I mean, he was, but if you're not ready and you don't have the right staff and the right people ready to go, then don't get into it until you're ready. So residential side, we'll do 12 to 14 million with this year, and just banging out roofs. The commercial side, well, I'm hoping to get to 2 million, but it's brand new for us, right? So the lead acquisition's a lot slower, the sales cycle's a lot slower, but you're carrying debt for a lot longer as well. So when you do a roof that's 200,000, 300,000, you're carrying that debt for 90 to 120 days. Where on the residential side, I mean, you're turning and burning, like you're running over money in 3 days. So that's why that we decided to wait until we had that recurring revenue stream, which was the residential side, of where we could fund our own large jobs. So we went at it slow here. It took me 3 years to build it up to where we felt comfortable enough to start taking on larger projects. So.
And well, I mean, so during that 3 year time, what were you working on? Because everyone wants to get into commercial, everyone wants to rush into it, and I think sometimes, it can cause more trouble than good.
So systems and processes, man, like having the right thing in place, from the estimating tools to the CRMs to having all of the right pricing in place. We spent some money and went after and headhunted the right guy to bring in. I mean, the thing you work on in my mind is to have the cash flow ready to go. When guys are just cash flowing a business, is separate than having profit. So the profits that we were making, we're banking that back for cash flow because we know it's going to be slower. Right, so you're prepping for when you get that first big job that is going. I mean, don't get me wrong here. I mean, we could, have a job account and do all these other things, but why do I want to pay interest on things when I have my own money for it? So really, just banking cash and just getting ready to go with it. That's really the preparation part, I think, because to me it's the scariest thing. Like I saw a stat a while back about most of your construction lawsuits are in flat roofing. Like I think it's over 50%, right? Because they trap in moisture, all these things happen. So it's about having the right plan, the right training manuals, the right everything to make sure that you don't get in trouble. And turn down jobs. Like we've turned down way more than what we've taken on this year. It's just not right because we don't have the right crew. We don't have the right experience with it. So just knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are is one of the big things.
What do you think you've been learning this year on the commercial side of things? Anything specific stand out to you?
The main thing that we've learned is the sales cycle is a lot longer than what we thought it was going to be. We were thinking, 2 to 3 months turnover. Like we're talking 6 months, a year. Some of these the projects I probably won't even do until 2024. Right? They're literally prepping that far out, and so we didn't have that concept because, on the residential side, you're literally the roof leaks. I need a roof now. You build urgency and you sell the roof now. It's not like that in the commercial world. It's like, hey, go ahead and patch it for now, and then we're going to bid it out with 4 other people. It's not that the lowest bid wins. That's not really the whole case, I don't think, all the time. I mean, it does in public work, but private, you still got to sell, but it's just a longer sales cycle. It's like they drag their feet on making a decision, and a lot of times the building's just getting worse.
Has there been any... when you're dealing with a prospect that's taking multiple bids, has there been any like reasons that stand out with you with customers that are like, hey, this is the reason we went with you?
The main thing is the persistence, I think, and the education. So like, we don't want to tell them the wrong thing, right? So when we do an inspection, we do a full inspection, right? For us to bid it properly, we'll either have to do, the core testing or, the IR testing, something to make sure that we can fix it, that the materials are available, and some of the stuff too, right? So you got challenges with, material shortages. So we got one job that we grabbed because it was already a ballast system and nobody else could get insulation. Well, we went out and found some GPS, which was graphite infused EPS that we could use. Because it's a ballast, right? So I didn't have to worry about it. So we went out and found some different product that we could use to get the same result. So it's about the creativity as well. So that project was actually a pretty good one because they actually had paid a guy like 4 years before that, like $40,000, and all he did was just lay rubber out. Didn't even put the no seam tape, no nothing. Just laid it out, moved rock back. And that thing leaked worse after that. Than it did. Yeah. And then the bid was actually like $180,000. So.
Wow. Are you guys doing a lot of networking?
Networking's starting to gain traction, but yes, we are networking. So we've got a few of the other guys that we're working with as far as the other contractors, electricians or plumbers or whatever. Like, hey, listen, I know this guy. That's actually a pretty good way in. Networking actually getting into the commercial real estate agent and getting to the building purchaser has been better than the building owner. Like the guys getting to purchase the building. And now as a recession's coming, I feel like that's going to be more and more because I think the property values are going to drop and guys are going to try to gobble it up. So we're trying to build the relationship there to where, and I don't know if I'm giving away all my trade secrets with it now, but like go after the guys buying the building and do the tests and evaluation because they'll
needs
pay
a new
you.
roof, or needs a new roofer possibly.
Yeah, and they'll pay you to do the inspection.
Right.
They'll pay you to go in because you'll save them $4 million of a bad purchase for a $10,000 inspection. So those guys are who we're trying to get after.
We've had good luck reaching out to like facility managers too, actually. When we're looking
Yeah.
at the winter rate, it's another good one. But yeah, that's cool. So I wanted to, going back, we talked about networking and everything like that, but I wanted to dive in more with you when you took over as a sales director, right, for an up and coming roofing company, and
Yep.
went from 4 million to over 20 million in
Yeah.
under 3 years.
Yes, sir.
What was that? What was that experience like?
So that experience was actually fun. So when I first got there, they had 12 sales guys doing $4 million a year. So when you look at numbers like that, it's like, well, what's the culture here? Well, they were cannibalizing each other and eating each other up. It was actually awful. We actually fired everybody but one guy. Kept one guy, started over, went to 5.7 that first year. Yeah, 5.7 with just four guys, and then we got four more guys. So we wound up getting over 20 million. I exited in the middle of the 20 mil year, because the year before I left was actually 15 with 11 guys. But then the 20 mil year, they had about 14 to 15 guys total, and they did over 20. It was it a lot to learn about growth and growing pains. So a lot of the growing pains were, and that was one of the things too. There was, I didn't agree with them going all in on commercial yet, right? So this is what I hate to say to keep cautioning guys. I know this is the commercial roofing, podcast stuff here, but I don't go unless you know that you can do it, right? So that's the thing. And when you start getting into public bids and you underbid stuff by 30% compared to everybody else, and then you lose a bid bond and now you can't bid again, and then you could lose everything. So my thought is I didn't like the direction that was going on the commercial side, because they wanted to get out of the private and go all public, and I said we're not ready yet. And we weren't ready yet, and so I said, listen, I'm backing out. But the scale part was fun, right? So the residential side scaling, the commercial side was fun to scale. It just it became overwhelming when we were doing the public jobs that we didn't know, but because there's specs in there, man. There's stuff like, hey, you've got to have 85% of your workforce has to live within 30 miles of this county, right? You get into some of these specs that these architects do, it can get you in trouble quick. So I hate to harp on that part of it. But the question was, how was it fun and scaling? It was a good time, man. Like, watching people grow. That $5 to $9 million growth spurt is probably the hardest, because as the owners, and that's the growing pains. That's when that's when you're getting the stretch marks, man. That's whenever it's just really just busting out at the seams. And the owners will still make the same amount of money, or actually less than what they did at $4 million, right? Because you're reinvesting and putting it right back in there. But once you hit about 12, that's, to me, that's like the breathe point again. But what it takes to do 12 or 13 is the same to do 20, right? You just add a couple more people, but the admin structure is what you got to have in place.
So talk about that on expectations, because I think that's a good point to bring up, because I've seen companies do 6 million a year, and then I've seen companies do 20 million a year, and the guy doing 6 is taking home like 5 times the amount of money right now.
Yep.
Right. So maybe talk a little bit about that and what they can kind of expect sometimes during the scaling process.
So the smaller that you are, the leaner that you can run. Right. So there's this equation of like a per capita, right? So a roofing company should run in about 500,000 per capita. So for every 500,000 in revenue is one employee. That's a good sweet spot. When you're under 5 million, a lot of times it's $1 million to one, right? So you're $1 million to one person. So, but in that growth pattern, that 5 to 9. It's about 350, because you're building for that next stage, right? So once you get to 10 million, now you're at 400 to 500,000. So like with our company now, like the growth stage with that time I took was, we were down to 300,000, revenue per employee. And that's how I kind of measure it. It kind of helps you see the bigger vision of going through a recession. If something hits, like even in the middle of COVID, that's what kind of hurt us was we had COVID had hit right as we planned on going into this 350 model. Hey, listen, we're going to dump more people into the process when COVID hit, right? So our revenue it didn't come down, but it flatlined. It didn't scale. So revenue, flatlined, but we still had the employees. So it brought our revenue down, that ratio down to about 300. Now we're back up to about 500, which is a good sweet spot for a roofing company to run. So that's how I would measure it. Like, where are you at? What can you afford? Is that 500,000 in rev per employee? I mean, some things can run at $1 million, some can run at 250. But we think of that sweet spot's around 500,000 to 600,000. So the less employees that you have, the more that the business owner has to do himself, right? That's just more hats you got to wear. So it depends on what your stress level is. If you want to take a day off, if you want to work in the business and not on the business, that's those differences. So most of the time, under the 4 million, those guys own a job, and I don't mean it to be negative. Like, that's a good job. I mean, they can make 4, 5, 6, 600, $1 million a year at 4 million. Like, I know a guy that his business is 4 million, and he's pocketing $1 million, right? So I mean, he's making a great living, but he doesn't have a day off. You know what I mean? Like, everything evolves around him. So those are the things that you've got to figure out what matters to you. And again, this could be a 2-year short growing pain that you have to go through to where you can back out and, okay, now not hands off, but I'm hands out. Like, let everybody do their position.
So what about, one thing I think is it's easy to set a goal. So let's say my goal is $10 million this year. I need $10 million annual revenue. It's harder to have a goal that's backed by this is the reasoning of why we came with this number. Do you have any advice on, hey, this is how you set a revenue goal, or this is how you kind of think about growth in the business and goal setting?
So I set it based on where I want my rev to be compared to employee, based on where I'm at from the previous year. So we actually went backwards. I say backwards, but we went backwards in revenue this year compared to what we should have done. So we scaled 30%, but we added in a lower ticket item, right? So we actually tripled our actual jobs that we did, and we actually tripled our profitability, but we only scaled 30% in revenue. So I think I'd rather focus on what can you actually get done on the production side and work your way backwards. So we had to make sure that we had the right crews, the right repair teams. I mean, we're running I think 3, 4, 5 repair teams now, right? Because that's that recurring revenue stuff. That's that quick $1,500 to $2,000 that you can make. That it's a $2,000 ticket, but you're making $1,500 on it, right? So that's those quick hits. So my average ticket still went up some this year just because of inflation. But if I would have taken those same squares and put it into replacement, we would do 17 million this year instead of 12, right? So we cut out 5 million in rev, but on the bottom end, we went from 5%, 7% profit to 13 to 15. So we're tripling our bottom end. So you just got to look at. I would start with what can you actually do on the production side? Like, what do you know the capabilities are? Can I put on 1,000 roofs this year? Yeah. Can I do 1,000 repairs? Yes. Work your way backwards with that. Okay, so what's my average ticket going to be? And then work your way backwards. That's what I would recommend instead of just starting at revenue and how do I hit the revenue? Because anybody can sell it, but can you actually put it on, right? So. So then you got to run a production rate. So we run around 92% on the production rate. That's what we call it. But so I'm going to install 92% of everything that I sell this year. So that's the production rate that we look at. Some companies I've seen, they run 70%, 80%. It's like, yeah, we sold $10 million, but my revenue, my actual, on the collection side is 8 million. So they missed their target for when they set up their overhead, right? So now they missed their overhead, so they didn't cover the spread this year. So work your way backwards. Like, what can you actually put on the roof and actually make a dollar on, instead of just hitting revenue goals? And then once you do that, then okay, so I can do 1,000 jobs, and this is this is what I need in revenue to get to this 1,000 jobs to have these 20 employees, right? So it's kind of a mixture of all three, is the way that I've always viewed it. So that way I don't just sit out an arbitrary number. I want to do $20 million. Like, that's a great number, but what does that mean? How much? I mean, are you making $3 million on the bottom line, or are you making 300,000? Right. So I always work it from the production end to back.
So do you do like a strategic planning once a year, or when do you come up with these numbers?
So it's really more on, yes. So yes, it's based on how many squares was this crew able to get done this year, right? So you take your best crew and your worst crew, and then you find a median, right? You find the middle. And then do the same thing with repair. So I won't even set next year's budgets until December. I'm like, okay, so what do we actually get done this year? What was actually, what was the real output? And then you kind of take that, okay, so what do I got to do to go up 30% with that, right? Okay, so I got to add one more repair crew and one more install crew. Cool. Bring them in, train them, get them going, out the door. So I know with this crew now is $1 per day, right? So we track it that way too. It's like, how much money am I making per day per crew, right? And so that's when we realized that, hey, we're not doing hardy board anymore, right? We're not doing windows anymore. We're not doing this stuff because we're not making enough dollars per day to where it's not profitable, right? So we dropped everything in 2019 and went just to roofing. So we might sell $100,000 hardy job, but it takes you 20 days, right? And if you're making, let's say, even 15% on that, I mean, you're making $600 a day. When I can take a repair crew with two men, and I can go make $2,000 to $3,000 a day with two men. So it's put your effort and focus into the things that's going to make you money, and then start to diversify the portfolio.
So when did you personally start getting so good with like the numbers, just understanding the KPIs, which ones matters, and then having it all boom, boom, boom?
I got my butt kicked building houses, man. Like trying to figure out like how to pay the electrician, and robbing Peter to pay Paul, and trying to hire guys in house. And it just kind of hit me one day. It was, studying. I mean, it's not just on me too. I mean, you start reading books, you start asking guys like, how are you doing things? And when you start looking at numbers, I don't like to look at people as numbers, but you have to have numbers to have people. Right. So,
exactly.
And when you got 30 families that we're feeding right now, right? Like I want to make sure that I've got 35 next year, and 40 next year, and 55. I don't want to go the other way. Right. I want to feed as many people as we can. So the importance of those numbers, I guess just learning it through trial and error, I guess is the main thing, and developing it your own systems and processes of like, hey, how do I measure things? I try to measure things differently. Like I don't measure, I had 2,500 leads this year, which we'll probably have 5,000. I measure, hey, we set 3,500 appointments. But out of those 3,500 appointments, how many prices was I able to get, because it's actually within the scope of what we do. Right? So I'm looking for what we call a demo rate. Right? So I'm measuring my scheduling team based on a demo rate. Right? So if my guys are given a price 90% of the time, which that's what we feel that you should be able to do, then that means that not only is the lead good, but the lead quality was good, and the scheduler was good with it. So you have to, I don't know. So I've always tried to look at it in a different light. So, my set rate is always cool, right? So if I set 80% of my appointment or leads into the appointments, that's great. But if I set 60% and now my demo is at 90. I know I've got a better quality lead my guys are running. Right. And so our closing rates go out the roof when you start having a better, with the appointment set. So like we're closing in the 60s this year on the residential side, like just slaying it. Right. And my guys are running 5 to 7 a week, and they're picking up an extra, 3 to 4 of themselves with self-gen stuff. So, but we're setting them 5 to 7. And it's like that little sweet spot is like, ooh, they have just enough to keep them happy, but they're closing these deals because they're a better quality lead. So you got to measure it in different ways. Like I don't just look at, I need 10,000 leads because it's just a numbers game. It's like, well, what's the qualitative number in that, not just the quantitative. And that's just kind of how we looked at things. Like one thing that Warren Buffett was just talking about one day was he was looking at, and I don't remember what year it is. I'm a bad student, but let's say it was like 1967 Ford, right? He's looking at their P&L sheet, and like he's talking about this. He's like, yeah, I'm looking at this P&L sheet. It's their most profitable year ever as far as net profit, and I wanted to know why. And he said he just kept studying and studying because he wants to see what did they do different that year than every other year. So those are the things you want to find, that number that sticks out. Like, why did this number stick out? Like, so that's kind of how we, I don't know, came up with all that stuff. Like, it's a plethora of different things that you got to put it together, right? Cool, leads are good, appointments are good, sales are good, but are your people happy because they're running quality appointments and because the scheduling team's doing the right thing? So those are the ways that we try to measure things. But when it came to building houses, the one thing that I found out quickly in sales was that honestly, homeowners didn't care how well the house was built. Okay, they didn't care how well the house was built. It didn't matter. I mean, I had pitch books. I had this. I took a picture of the whole process. They had a jump drive. Like we try to do everything different. Like you got 2x12 floor joists, 2x8 walls. This thing will, you could keep it warm with a match every winter, right? They didn't care about the crap that they couldn't see, which is crazy to me. That's when I learned that sales is and only emotional, right? They would not buy a house that was built way better than the one beside it because the color of the wall was gray instead of white or beige instead of gray. Like it was the weirdest thing I ever saw in my life. But people buy on emotion and not on the facts, that was just my opening.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, we built the best house that you could even think about. And you can sit there and go through it. And I know the guy that built the house across the street, and it was junk, but they would buy that house at the same price because he staged it better, and he had the different furniture in there, which is leaving anyway, right? So but that's when I learned that it's all about the front end show with it. So.
No. You're rattling off different numbers that that you look at, and it's pretty much you're just talking about a bird's eye view of the company. I forgot what we were talking about. Do you use AccuLinks or what do you use?
Job Nimbus currently.
Job Nimbus, yeah. So then do you set up dashboards in that, or where are you seeing all these numbers, I guess? Do you put that stuff in your CRM? Do you have separate tracking tools that you set up, or how do you kind of go about that? Do you have any suggestions there?
Yeah, great question. So in Job Nimbus, the cool part about it is it's so customizable that you can track anything you want to. The negative side is it's so customizable that nobody knows how to set it up.
Yeah, it's like you need an implementer. Just if you're going to use any CRM, just hire somebody to implement it.
You got to hire a guy to draw out your workflow and what your thought process is. So actually, I use a product called Xmind to actually lay out the mapping of what we want it to look like, and then we go in there and change a process. But yeah, so when Nimbus will do it for you. I mean, there's other tools that do well as well, but for now that we're at the stage that we're at, we're probably going to have to look for something else. So I can integrate it all into one, because right now we're using 4 or 5 platforms, right? So now we're looking for something different. But as far as information goes, it's customizable. You can track and report anything you want as long as it's inputted.
Yeah.
Right? you can
I
pull
would
it
say
off.
too is don't be afraid to look at CRMs that are outside the roofing space too.
Yeah.
Right? I think
HubSpot.
when we go to HubSpot, Zoho, there's a variety of different sources, and there's so many different integrations that you can do, and I think that can be one of the benefits of hiring a professional is they can help you through that process.
Yeah.
There is things that are good about CRMs that are industry specific, but they also do have some limitations, right? And so
Right.
if you do outgrow that or you want to explore other things, don't be afraid to do that. And you can still sync other industry tools into the other systems as well.
Well, the best one is the one you use, right? So that's the way to look at it.
Exactly.
So make sure you're using it. You know what I mean? Don't go around a process because there's something to be said for being able to get out of the business because if you want to travel and live 3 months in Florida every year, you've got to have something that's digital. If you're relying on a paper file and you're relying on somebody having to be at the office every day, then that could be a problem. Like you're putting yourself into a position to where you could fail. And I think COVID kind of proved that. So, but you got to use it and put everything in there where you can just go and access it anywhere in the world. So that's the beauty of it. So.
Well, and the key too with any of the tech is once it's placed into the business, it should feel like it's running smoother.
Yeah.
Sometimes what happens is you go out, you buy the technology, and it doesn't get implemented properly. There's a ton of friction. Some people are using it, some people aren't. So if you make it feel like it's removing some manual things or helping organize or easing any kind of thing for your employees, that's going to stick and people are going to keep using it, right? I mean, and ideally it's their one-stop shop. If you can make it their one-stop shop where they feel like, ooh, this is the one spot I have to go and I got everything I need, that's going to be nice.
Yeah, my biggest obsession, which sounds crazy, is minuscule tasks. I don't want my team to be doing tasks. I'd rather automate and figure that out. Like we build out stuff all the time. Like I was on with the scheduling manager earlier, trying to figure out because she's doing this minuscule task every day. It takes up an hour a day, right? It doesn't seem like a lot. That's an hour a day she's not talking to customers. So with the sales team, with the scheduling team, with the production team, whatever, like I want to take out as much task as we can and automate that crap. I mean, there's such good technology that's out there that you shouldn't have to be data entering, right? So right now our data entry is like very, very, very low. Like I do have one lady that's all she does is updates the leads and disposition stuff, and the guys ran the appointment. Like she does all that manual data entry for 10 sales guys.
Yeah.
Right. But one person's doing it, so it's done right. It's done the same way, and she works 15 to 20 hours a week because she wanted a part-time job. Right. So that's the thing that I try to do with the team is take away any, minimal task. And it sounds like that. I don't know. It's just the more automation you can put in there, the more time that they have to spend with the customer. Henry Ford. I'm a big student of Henry Ford. Like, it's not that he really invented the assembly line, which he did, but he invented the 40-hour work week. But any owner that says that, what's the first thing in your business, and they say it's their customers, they're too close to their customer. It should be your employees, because when you take care of the employees, they take care of the customer. So if I can make their life better to where they can literally just spend time on the phone with the customer and making sure that they're taken care of and not having to do, minimal tasks, then to me, that's my customer now is the employees. That's my team, right? Taking care of them and making sure that their job is a lot better than just, entering in data all day long.
I love that, man. Well, hey, I'm sure we could probably go on for hours. You are a wealth of knowledge. We have a game set up here though before we close out, and then after that, I'll let you finish it off with. It could be a book suggestion, a quote, life advice. You kind of name it to kind of close it out. But if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you, Jonathan?
So for Ugly Roof, just go to uglyroof.com, man, and we've got the Become a Dealer section, or just shoot me an email. John, Jon, at uglyroof.com. Shoot me an email, man. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah, hey, make sure you guys you're connecting with him. Like, you can tell, he's a wealth of knowledge. He has so much, experience, and a great product offer as well. So make sure you're connecting with him. Oh, hey there. You come here often? I feel like I see you every Wednesday. And, you definitely caught my eye. I'll tell you one thing. You know how to stand out from a crowd. You already got a lot of great things going for you. I mean, I see your company. I see what you got going on. I want to be part of it. How about I give you my number and you send me a text? 720-796-4935. Hey, yeah, it's Nick, right? Peakleads.io. I think we can help you generate some commercial roofing leads. Looking forward to chatting. Talk soon. So, Jonathan, we got Who Wants to Be a Roofing Millionaire, right?
Okay.
So it's not all roofing, it's actually more about the roofer, right? So more about you. You get 2 lifelines. The first one's 50-50, removes 50% of the answers, leaving you with a 50% chance of getting the answer right. And also phone a friend. But if they don't pick up, you lose the lifeline.
Oh, gosh. Okay, let's do it.
All right. So, West Virginia trivia time, all right? So you went to University of West Virginia, right? I know you're a proud alum. They have a unique tradition of passing the rifle down to the new Mountaineer mascot each year.
Uh-huh.
How many years has this tradition been going on? Is it A, 68, B, 60, C, 72, or D, 55?
I know it's not 32. It's longer than that. Man. All right, let's do a 50-50 on it. How many questions are there? Wait, how many questions?
5. There's 5.
There's 5 total. So 2022, 22. So 2000 be 42, 80. I know it started in the 60s, man. So that 55 and 68 one. So was it 68, 55, and what was the other one?
So it's 68, 60, 30, 32, and 55.
So did it start in 1962, 1942, 60s? So I'm gonna go with 60 flat.
You're going 60 flat. Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
It's A, 68 years. Either way, man, a long time. So did you ever see that tradition actually happen, or what?
Yeah, man. Yeah, every year they usually do it at a basketball game. Yeah,
Right
so they have a
on.
competition, and this year is actually a girl. So it's like the 3rd girl that they've had. So yeah, they have a tradition
Pretty
with
cool.
the beards and whatever, and yeah, and the students actually vote on it still, so it's fun.
Oh, that's cool. Right on, man.
Yeah.
All right. So you started working with your dad in a sheet metal shop.
Yes, sir.
I got a science question that's related to you for this one. What percentage of the periodic table is metals? Is it A, 50%, B, 25%, C, 75%, or D, 90%? That's a hard one.
So the periodic table has got a lot of metals in it.
A lot of metals, yes.
A lot of heavy metals, a lot of... All right, let's do the 50-50 on that one.
All right, we're going to use the 50-50. So we have 50% and 90% eliminated, leaving you with 25% or 75%.
Oh my gosh, that didn't help me a bit.
25 or 75?
So I don't think it's 75. I was thinking it was 50. Man, that's a lot of metal though. Uranium, palladiums, all the uraniums and palladiums and radiums and Oh, that's metals. So let's go with 75, man. I think I'm wrong, but let's go with it.
That's right. 75% of all the elements on the periodic table are metals. And
Crazy.
they're actually into subdivided separate groups. So basic metals, transitional metals, earth metals, rare earth metals. You go on and
Sweet.
on and on. So a variety of different categories, but that's correct. 75%. So we got a little chemistry going on commercial roofing radio
All
today.
right.
All right, now we're
Got
going
it right.
to Pennsylvania. So your last three companies have been based in Pennsylvania. So we're gonna test the local knowledge. Pittsburgh has the most what in the world?
Bridges.
Boom. He's got it. The city
Yeah.
of bridges. You knew that one real quick, eh?
Yeah. It's like 420 some, I think, now or something.
That's actually pretty really close. 446 is what I got, which is
46,
more
yeah.
than any city in the world, including Venice, Italy.
Yep. Bridges. Bridges and tunnels.
All right, so you're obviously, you have been an entrepreneur your whole life. I'm sure you look up to, a few of them, right? But which iconic entrepreneur is actually a high school dropout? Is it A, Elon Musk, B, Michael Bloomberg, C, Mark Cuban, or D, Richard Branson?
So Mark Cuban, I know he graduated college because he talks about it. I don't know a whole lot about Branson. Elon Musk, he actually has a couple honorary degrees. And who was the other one?
Michael Bloomberg.
Michael Bloomberg. I know nothing about Michael Bloomberg as far as a personal life. I feel like Elon graduated, Mark Cuban graduated college. So I'm going to say Branson or Bloomberg. How many questions are left?
We got this one and one more.
Oh, I'm going to save the phone a friend. Let's just get it wrong, I guess. Let's go with Bloomberg. Let's go with Bloomberg.
It's D, Richard Branson. All right. So he owns over 400 companies through the Virgin Group and has a net worth of $4.5 billion.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I thought it was one of those two. I narrowed it down, but yeah, let's just get it wrong.
Pretty impressive. I read a couple of books on him actually, and he started in Virgin, and when he was getting it going, he started getting some good publicity, and some people started to hear about him, right? And he was talking about bands and stuff like that in the magazine, and all of a sudden, some editors, some people in the news came in, and he would pretend while they came in to interview him that big time rock stars were calling him. Right, and it was really just his friends calling, and he'd be like, "Hey, tell him I gotta call him back. Tell him I gotta call him back." And he was just playing the front, and then they go right like, "Oh, he's such a big deal. Everybody's trying to connect with him and whatnot." And wait, we got another deal from Hannah over here. Look at this, Rockstar. Who we got now? Hey, Jonathan's excited. Jonathan's impressed. We got Georgia. We got a roof around in Georgia. Let's go. Keep it hot. Keep it hot. She appreciates the support, Jonathan.
I love it, man. It's great.
Heck yeah. All right, we got one more question. All right, so we
right.
got another West Virginia trivia question here. They have 2 undefeated football seasons. All right, now what years did they take place?
All right, I'm going to vote a friend on that.
Oh, who are we calling on this one?
Sean Blake.
Give him a call. Give him a ring.
I hope he answers, right?
Yeah, don't we all?
So 2 years of undefeated in football?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the choices?
I'll give you one season.
Okay. Is it?
Oh, you know what? American season.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, man. Hey, listen, real quick. I'm actually kind of on a podcast that's now a game show. So I've got a question for you.
Okay.
So the Mountaineers have only had 2 undefeated seasons. What were those 2 years? And now I've got choices if you need them.
All right, hey, can you hear me?
88 and 89, and what was the other one?
So I knew that the 88, 89. I couldn't remember the other one. I didn't say it out loud. What's the choices, Nick?
So we have A, which is 1980 and 95, and then we have B, 1988 and 1993, We have C, 1990 and 2000, and then D, 1975 and 1980.
We're gonna go with B for the roofer $1 billion right here.
Ah, you are a roofing millionaire. That is right. And your buddy came in clutch to help you out over here.
All right, hey, call me later tonight. I got to talk to you about something.
All right, buddy. Yep.
He's in trouble. He's in trouble over here.
Good to go, man. That was good. Yeah, I knew that he knew the answer.
I love it.
I should have heard all the four, and I'd have guessed it because I knew 88. But
Oh, man. I love it. Well, hey, you are a roofing millionaire. I can't believe it. You've blown me away. Now you get to end this show, too. So whatever you want to leave the viewers with, you get to do so.
man, so you said a book or something. So I've got, man, I hate to say it because I can't pick one book. So I'll give you three.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
One is Extreme Ownership, man. Like you've got to read Extreme Ownership to internalize. When things go wrong, it's actually your fault for either not having a plan in place, or proper training. The next book, I'm going to go with Toxic Client by Garrett Sutton. To me, it's more important that we walk away from deals that aren't right. And that book really helps you navigate, what a toxic client actually is. The third book is going to be Never Split the Difference. So Chris Voss is the man. So if you want to really get into the psychology of how and why people think, like he was a FBI interrogator, and he really teaches some really good stuff. So that would be the top three there. And yeah, man, just keep roofing on, man. Like the roofing business, like I don't think that you got to go to college to be a millionaire, right? Because we proved it there with Branson a minute ago. But I think that kids need to be taught that it's okay to be in a trade, and not everybody's meant to go to college. That's one of my biggest pushes right now is that, education is not always just having to go to college and get it there. Like you can learn a trade and be in the trades and be successful, make a lot of money. I know a lot of electricians, plumbers, heating air guys, roofers, that are now very well off. And you'll always have, what my dad had taught me with that is you have to have a trade to fall back on, right? So if you got a trade to fall back on, if the world ever falls, hopefully I'll be one of the top guys in the community because I can help them build a house and put the roof on, right? So that's what I'd say is always be learning a trade and be a student, and that's it, man.
Absolutely. Okay, couldn't agree more. Well, hey, Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it, dude. This was great.